Green Arrow. Starting with the Green Arrow, who has always been a hero, fighting for justice with nothing but his bow, arrows, and sharp mind. But sometimes, even the best heroes make choices that leave everyone questioning where their loyalties lie. That happened when Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, started working with Amanda Waller, one of the world's most dangerous and powerful figures. But Amanda Waller had a plan, a big one. She wanted to take away the powers of all superheroes. No more Superman flying through the skies, no more Wonder Woman with her super strength, no more Flash running faster than light. And Green Arrow, he helped her do it. With his knowledge of the Justice League, he gave Waller access to the Red Channel, a secret way the League communicated. This was a huge advantage. It let Waller track down and ambush heroes before they even saw her coming. Worse, she took over the Justice League's home, turning the Hall of Justice into the Hall of Order. Everything seemed to be falling apart. Heroes went into hiding. Nightwing led a resistance against Waller, trying to take back control. Meanwhile, Green Arrow was still on Waller's side, fighting against the people he once called friends. It felt like a true betrayal. Had Oliver turned against the Justice League? Well then, the shocking truth came out. Green Arrow had been a spy all along. He had Martian Manhunter place a secret thought in his mind that made him believe Waller was right. Just for a while. When the time was right, the thought disappeared, and Green Arrow finally turned against Waller, helping the heroes fight back. Though he redeemed himself in the end, it was still one of the darkest moments in Justice League history. Oliver Queen had played a dangerous game that almost cost him everything. Lex Luthor tried to be a hero, then went back to villainy. Next up, Lex Luthor has always been one of the world's smartest and most powerful men. He has everything: money, brains, and influence. But there's one thing he never had: the love and admiration that Superman received. And that made Lex furious. He tried to bring Superman down for years, believing the world didn't need an alien to protect them. But here's the twist. There was a time Lex tried to be a hero himself. During the New 52, something unexpected happened. Superman died. And for the first time, Lex saw a world without his biggest rival. Instead of celebrating, he felt something strange: inspiration. He decided to take Superman's place and prove that a human could be just as great as the Man of Steel. Lex even wore the famous red and blue S symbol and fought to protect Metropolis. People started believing in him, and he was eventually accepted into the Justice League. It looked like Lex had truly changed. But then came a brutal wake-up call. During the events of No Justice, Lex discovered something that crushed him. The universe itself saw him as a villain. No matter what he did or how much he tried to be good, deep down, he was still Lex Luthor. That realization broke him, and just like that, he gave up on being a hero and returned to villainy, unleashing a dark and powerful being named Perpetua. But why was Lex like this? Why did he always need to prove himself? The answer goes back to his childhood. When he was young, Lex visited a planetarium in Smallville. There, he watched a movie about the universe's life cycle. From the Big Bang to the Big Crunch, he loved it. But one day, the movie played reverse, showing everything being undone, vanishing into nothing. That moment terrified him. It made him feel small, like he didn't matter. And Lex Luthor hated that feeling more than anything. Not only this, that fear shaped him. Every plan he made, every scheme he created was about making himself bigger and more powerful. He became obsessed with proving he was the universe's greatest mind. He ran companies, controlled cities, and even became president of the United States. But no matter how high he climbed, he always felt it wasn't enough. And so, repeatedly, he returned to what he knew best, being the ultimate villain. Red Hood. Jason Todd was once Batman's loyal sidekick, Robin. He was young, full of energy, and determined to fight crime, just like his mentor. But unlike the first Robin, Dick Grayson, Jason had a wild side. He was reckless, angry, and didn't always listen to Batman's rules. Still, he was a hero at heart. That all changed when the Joker got to him. In one of the darkest moments in Batman's history, Jason was beaten nearly to death and then blown up in an explosion. Batman was too late to save him. Robin was gone. But Jason didn't stay dead. Somehow, he came back, angrier, deadlier, and completely different. He took on a new identity, Red Hood. And this time, he wasn't playing by Batman's rules. Jason believed Gotham's criminals didn't deserve a second chance. Instead of locking them up, he started killing them. His rage wasn't just aimed at criminals, though. He blamed Batman for letting him die and never avenging him. That's when things got worse. Jason turned against Batman and the entire Bat family, becoming one of their most dangerous enemies. Beyond this, one of the people Jason clashed with the most was Nightwing, the original Robin. Before Jason's death, the two had a complicated bond. Jason always looked up to Nightwing, but felt like he was living in his shadow. When he returned as Red Hood, all that old tension exploded. At one point, Jason even stole Nightwing's identity and went on a violent spree in New York, trying to prove he was stronger, better, and more ruthless. This led to an intense fight between the former brothers, breaking their relationship for years. Over time, Jason found his way back to the Bat family, slowly shifting from a villain to an anti-hero. But for a long time, he was Batman's greatest failure, the Robin who died and returned as Gotham's most dangerous enemy. Hawk. Hawk was never supposed to be a villain. He started as a hero, fighting alongside his brother, Dove. The two were complete opposites. Dove was calm and peaceful, while Hawk was aggressive and ready to fight. But together, they made the perfect team. For years, Hawk battled villains and stood for justice, never showing signs of turning evil. Then, everything changed, not because of a well-planned story, but because of a last-minute decision by DC Comics. Originally, the villain Monarch was meant to be Captain Atom, but when fans figured it out too soon, DC panicked. They randomly decided to make Hawk the villain instead. It made no sense. He had no reason to turn evil, no build-up, nothing. But suddenly, Hawk was Monarch, a tyrant ruling with an iron fist. It was one of the strangest twists in comic history. But things didn't stop there. Hawk later changed his name to Extant and teamed up with an even bigger villain, Hal Jordan, who had also turned evil. Together, they tried to rewrite time, shaping the world into their vision. It was a huge moment in DC history, but it didn't last. In the end, Extant and Hal are defeated, and Hawk's story becomes one of DC's messiest hero-to-villain transformations. Ultimately, Hawk's turn to evil wasn't planned, and it showed. Unlike other heroes who slowly fall from grace, Hawk went from good to evil instantly, with no real reason. It was shocking, but also confusing. Fans never got to see a proper story of how or why Hawk turned, making his time as a villain feel more like an accident than a grand betrayal. Martian Manhunter. Now let's talk about the Martian Manhunter. He is not an ordinary hero, but he is one of the most powerful heroes in the Justice League. He has Superman's strength, but that's not even his most dangerous ability. He can read minds, shapeshift, turn invisible, and phase through solid objects. Even Superman admits that if there's one person he never wants to fight, it's Martian Manhunter. And in one shocking moment, the world saw exactly why. One day, Martian Manhunter overcame his biggest weakness, fire. But instead of making him stronger, it unlocked something terrifying inside him. Hidden deep in his DNA was a dark, ancient force known as Furnace. The moment it awakened, Martian Manhunter was gone. This new evil took over his body, and Furnace had only one goal: destruction. He didn't just fight the Justice League, he crushed them repeatedly. He launched nuclear bombs, wiped out a city in North Korea, and showed no mercy. Martian Manhunter, the kind-hearted hero, was now the greatest threat to Earth. But this wasn't the only time Martian Manhunter turned dark. In another universe, he wasn't even a hero at all. Instead of fighting for justice, he became a ruthless killer, hunting down others like him. Unlike the Johns everyone knew, this version had lost all compassion. Maybe being ripped away from Mars and forced to live among humans had turned him cold. Or maybe he wasn't even John at all. He looked different, orange instead of green. Was he just another alien using the name to hide his true identity? No one knew for sure. For a hero known for his unshakable morals, Martian Manhunter's darkest versions proved just how dangerous he could be. Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was one of the greatest Green Lanterns of all time. He was fearless, strong, and a true hero. But then, everything changed. His home, Coast City, was destroyed, and millions of people were gone in an instant. The loss shattered him. Desperate to bring back everything he had lost, Hal tried to use his power ring to rebuild Coast City to the last person. But the Green Lantern Corps had rules, and this was breaking them. When they tried to stop him, Hal snapped. Let's rewind a bit to its story. He turned against his people, taking their power rings individually. He fought his way to Oa, the home of the Green Lanterns, and in his madness, he destroyed everything in his path. He even killed the Guardians and Sinestro, his old enemy. By the end of it, Hal was no longer a Green Lantern. He had become something else entirely. He had become Parallax, a being of pure fear and more powerful than ever. Above all, Parallax had abilities beyond anything Hal had before. He wasn't just strong. He could control fear itself. He could reach into people's minds, find their deepest fears, and make them real. He could fly across the universe in seconds, create powerful energy blasts, and even take over other people's bodies, forcing them to do his bidding. He was unstoppable. At his worst, Parallax tried to rewrite time itself, but the Justice League stopped him in the end. Later, Hal would try to make things right, even taking on the role of the Spectre to redeem himself. But for a time, the greatest Green Lantern the universe had ever known was its most terrifying villain, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is one of the greatest heroes in the world, a warrior of truth and justice. But there have been times when she has turned against everything she stood for. One of the biggest examples was during the Witching Hour storyline. An ancient goddess named Hecate, who wanted to control all the magic in the world, took over Wonder Woman's body. With Diana under her spell, she became a threat to everyone, even her team. In addition, the Justice League and Justice League Dark tried to stop her, but she was too powerful. She was so dangerous that they had no choice but to work with the Upside Down Man, one of the scariest beings in the magical world. Ultimately, Wonder Woman was freed from Hecate's control, but it's shaken everyone. This wasn't the first time she had been possessed. It probably wouldn't be the last. But sometimes, Wonder Woman didn't need to be possessed to be a villain. In the Flashpoint timeline, she became a ruthless queen. She had an affair with Aquaman, and when his wife, Mara, confronted her, Diana killed her without hesitation. She even wore Mara's crown as a trophy. This led to a brutal war between the Amazons and Atlantis, and millions died. In the final battle, Wonder Woman showed no mercy. She killed Billy Batson, forcing him to transform back into the helpless kids that made up Captain Thunder. Then there was Injustice, where she stood by Superman's side as he became a tyrant. She encouraged him to take control of the world, pushing him further down the path of no return. Even when she saw what he had become, she never left him. Barry Allen. Time travel can get messy, and for Barry Allen, it led to one of the darkest moments of his life. One day, he came face to face with a future version of himself, a version that had been worn down by tragedy. This older Barry had lost his connection to the Speed Force and was getting slower. Worse, he had failed too many people, including Wally West, who died because of the Reverse Flash. The guilt consumed him, and he decided to go back in time to fix everything, no matter the cost. Beyond this, the future Flash was ruthless. He killed Gorilla Grodd, changed the Rogues' lives to ensure they never became villains, and had one final plan: to sacrifice his younger self to stop a Speed Force leak. But before he could do it, the future Wally West made the sacrifice instead. It was a shocking moment, but it wasn't the only time Barry's future self walked a dark path. In another timeline, Barry was pulled out of his time and replaced with an older version of himself. This older Barry saw it as a second chance to fix his past. He wanted to stop disasters before they happened, even if it meant taking extreme measures. When he discovered a student named Kyle Corrett planning to kill his classmates, Barry realized a legal loophole would let Kyle walk free. Instead of trusting the system, Barry decided to take justice into his own hands. He killed Kyle before he could do any harm. No doubt, this was a terrifying glimpse into what Barry could become. He had always believed in justice, but one failure was enough to push him over the edge. Who knew how far he would fall if the system let him down again? The Batman who laughs. Batman is usually the hero who keeps Gotham safe, but on Earth 22, things take a terrifying turn. This version of Bruce Wayne started like any other, fighting crime, protecting the innocent, and never crossing the line. But then, the Joker launched his final, most twisted attack on Gotham. He poisoned families, turned children into little monsters, and made Batman watch as everything fell apart. Batman had enough. He did what he never thought he would. He killed the Joker. But that was exactly what the Joker wanted. In his final moments, the Clown Prince of Crime released a toxin that seeped into Batman's body and rewired his mind. At first, Batman felt fine, but then something changed. He started thinking like the Joker. His strict moral code crumbled, and before long, he became something far worse than either of them: the Batman who laughs. Well, Bruce still had all his skills and intelligence, but with Joker's insanity mixed in. He wasn't just dangerous, he was unstoppable. His first victims were his own family. When Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Red Robin tried to stop him, he killed them. Then he turned his son Damian into a twisted version of himself. But he didn't stop there. He wiped out the Justice League, used black kryptonite to make Superman and Supergirl go mad, and watched as they destroyed their own families before dying themselves. The scariest part? This was still Batman. His mind and his skills were completely unhinged. It was a terrifying reminder of what could happen if the Dark Knight lost control. Ultimately, it took Wonder Woman to finally bring him down, but by then, the damage was already done. Injustice Superman. Finally, we have on the list Superman, who is supposed to be the world's greatest hero who always does the right thing. But in the world of injustice, everything changed. It all started when the Joker played his most evil trick yet. He drugged Superman, making him see things that weren't real. Superman thought he was fighting a dangerous villain, but in reality, it was Lois Lane, his wife, the love of his life, and the mother of his unborn child. Before he realized what was happening, he had already killed her, and as if that wasn't enough, the Joker had tied Lois's heartbeat to a nuclear bomb in Metropolis. The second she died, the whole city was wiped off the map. However, in one single moment, Superman lost everything: his wife, his child, and his home. He snapped. He found the Joker and without hesitation killed him. But that wasn't enough. Superman decided that villains like the Joker could never be allowed to exist again. He took over the world, creating the One Earth regime, a system where he ruled with an iron fist. He wasn't just fighting crime anymore, he was controlling everything. If someone disobeyed him, they died. Even former heroes weren't safe. When Shazam questioned Superman's rule, Superman killed him without mercy. In the end, Batman saw what was happening and knew he had to stop him. A brutal war raged between Superman's forces and Batman's resistance for 5 years. The worst part? Superman wasn't possessed, brainwashed, or controlled. He became a monster because of his grief and anger. The symbol of hope had turned into the very thing he once fought against. The world no longer had its greatest hero. It had its most terrifying ruler. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Click the video on the screen to watch more. See you in the next video.